What's up, broadcasters? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Branding Banter, where you can get all the nerdy news you need to know about. My name is Jeff Franklin, National Accounts Manager with Headwear USA.
And I'm Meg Erber, Chief
Experience
Officer at Barking Dewey.
I'm like, where am I today? I'm fulfilled. Go ahead, Sarah.
I love it. I'm Sarah Gashgarian Unruh, Strategic Partnership Manager at Stalls.
Awesome. Fresh back from NALC.
Yeah. Spent some time in Chicago. I will say Chicago weather is just nuts.
I know.
It's just, I feel like it's worse than Texas weather, probably because of the lake. But yeah, so I flew in for the weekend and did Mother's Day. I took my mom out there. So Saturday, the plan was to do some shopping. That morning was beautiful. It was like 79 degrees, warm. I had a hoodie on and I thought, okay, like I totally need to go change because it's much warmer than I thought. I'm glad we had watched the news that morning though, because a dry cold front blew in. And now I understand why it's called the Windy City. It went from like 79, 80 degrees, call it, to 40. Wow. It was freezing. No rain, just a dry cold front, exactly what it sounds like. And just the winds. I mean, it was tough. I mean, we were like running from building to building as we were trying to shop. So our shopping was cut short.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I went to boot camp up there, and then I went to an ICA school, and I remember it was during the winter from like October to April. So I just only got the freezing, cold, windy version of that town. So yeah.
Yeah. I've been to Chicago in, I think, either February or March before. It's ridiculously bone-chilling cold. I don't know how people live there, honestly. You get like 3 good months of weather. Like if it's not June, July, or August, don't go.
And then it's humid there in those months. It's so humid. If you have curly hair, just forget about it.
That's my problem.
The tulips were beautiful. I mean, they had beautiful tulips that were planted. So I mean, that was gorgeous. But yeah, it was, and especially in the city, right? I think I've been out there like in February or whatever before, but been out in more of the suburbs. But like in the city with the buildings and that wind, I was like, whew, it hits you.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk a little bit of a recap from NALC. We're going to talk maybe a sneak peek into PPAI's 100 since it was revealed to those attendees, but it's not officially announced until I think May 20th. So in just a few days, we'll talking next week, but maybe we'll get a little sneak peek from Sarah. And we're also going to talk maybe some trade deals since tariffs have been such a topic of conversation as of late. We'll maybe hit on some of the most recent things that have come up, which I think is really good news for our industry and really for us as a whole. So where do we want to start? You want to hit on NALC since we've already kind of talked Chicago?
Yeah, let's hear about it. Give us the recap, Sarah, because I missed it this year, and I'm like, the FOMO was so real this year. I'm telling you.
Obviously, the highlight was meeting Peter Bartlett, though, right? I mean,
1,000%. Yes, yes. We'll just put that feather in his cap right there. He's a great storyteller. I'll tell you that.
He's amazing.
Yeah, and like some of the things that like he's just done or just have happenstance to him are just unbelievable. So it was funny. So he was great.
Good deal. All right. So NALC, anything that stuck out that was different this year than prior years?
So the reveal of the PPAI 100 happened at the planetarium. That was pretty cool. It was one of those things. Can you remember the last time that you went to the planetarium? And Meg, maybe earlier because now you have a young one that's in elementary school. But can you remember the last time you went to a planetarium?
No.
Yeah, in elementary school.
Right. Like same. And most everybody, like the same for them as well. And so that was kind of cool to just be able to see and look around and everything. And they have the telescope that you could go view if you wanted to. And yeah, it was cool. So that's how they did the reveal of the PPAI 100 is you actually went into where like the screen is all around you and you're in the chairs that like lay back. Like I remember watching this. And so that was kind of neat. And so then they had them kind of reveal, and then the closer they got to number one, then they just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then number one was put inside of like the moon, which was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool way to like present it.
I just had a little bit of an epiphany. Do you think the idea for the sphere in Vegas came from the planetariums?
Could have been. Could have been.
So last year was really cool. When you walked in, it was in the stadium, right? And then you walked in and they started at like 50 and 49, 30, and then when they went all the way around and they had the numbers of the jerseys based on the place they were in, that was really cool. I think that's like the unveiling, the new like limited edition merch almost. Like, let's see how we can do better than last year. So that's really cool.
There was no merch.
What's
there
that?
Was no merch. There was no merch. But it was visually cool.
Yeah, that's cool. So, I'll take it. I'm jealous that I didn't get to go.
It's definitely like experiential.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Experiential. Yeah. From a thing, which I think is actually a trend. If you think about of what is happening within our merch world, experience and activation, like those types of things are what everybody's looking for. So yeah, so that was cool. Monday morning, our keynote kicked off was Chris Barton. That name, I'm sure a lot of people are like, who's Chris Barton?
Yeah.
He's the guy who started Shazam.
Wow.
And he was really interesting to listen to. He had 4 points that he kind of talked about, but he kind of his story. Then he spoke for an hour and a half. Like I would have never guessed it was an hour and a half that he was speaking. One of the things that was the most interesting of just about Shazam is that how he started the company and where they started from. It was 3 guys and they needed a 4th for just different hats, right? Like he knew he couldn't do this himself. They legit, like they would hire students, 18-year-olds that would take CDs and literally burn basically the CDs with the software 24 hours a day for like months. And then they set up, and this was done like 8 years before like anybody, there was no digital libraries of music at that time. Like that was the foresight. If you think about that, that was like before, like there was no MP3, there was no like iTunes, and really like you would go to the store and you would buy this CD. There was no way that you had any digital music. They legitimately built the library from getting every CD, which was crazy. They found this, and it was started in the UK. So there was almost like a library full of CDs, and they went and grabbed them and everything else. It's crazy.
That is crazy. That is.
He set up a partnership with a local DJ and paid him some money, because what would happen is the DJs would get, because then what would happen is they wanted the new songs. So the DJ would get the CD, the new CD. They would go pick it up on Monday morning, and then they would go, someone would ride their bike, go get it, bring it back, burn the CDs. So then that way they had that in their library. But I didn't know this. So if you remember the Nokia phone, if you remember like the way it looked like, it was good for like 3 things. 1 was making phone calls. 2 was you could send text messages, and 3 was playing Snake. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It brings you back, because you remember doing that if you had that old Nokia phone. So on that phone, if you dialed, or any phone, 2580 down the middle, it would say, hold your phone up to the music, and you'd hold your phone up to the music, and then it would tell you what the song was that it was playing. That's how Shazam actually had started, was a number that you would dial in front. It wasn't, there were no apps that didn't exist. So yeah, it was really interesting.
I didn't know that about the numbers. That's kind of cool. I feel like I missed, but I will say, not to take anything away from them or the story of burning all the CDs, but I feel like Napster was out before Shazam. And I'm pretty sure Napster had a pretty, now albeit, maybe not the most user-friendly, or not user-friendly, what am I saying? rights-friendly platform, but there was certainly a digital library.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Sarah, what year did he start Shazam? Or what year did he start doing Shazam?
I looked it up. It's 2002.
Oh, well then
Napster was 1999.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Interesting. So what's he doing now, Sarah? What's he doing now?
Now he's actually doing like AI type of things, because
Yeah.
here was the thing is that like Shazam was actually the first, and he had like 12 or 14 patents. I can't remember, as part of his intro that came out. But Shazam actually had a patent on the identifying of the waves, which was actually like an AI intelligent thing. So if you think about, when we think about AI, I think everyone thinks automatically like Chat GPT and that type of thing right now. But that actually was artificial intelligence that was at its work, you know, from an early stage. So was a calculator, if you didn't realize that. So yeah. So, but you know, so he is doing other patents, but it was one of the only companies that Apple ever actually bought. And I think they've got like over 1 billion downloads users, and all the other companies crumbled versus Shazam. So yeah.
Shazam is actually one of the longest living apps on my phone. Like, I still use Shazam. You guys use Shazam?
I do.
I didn't know that they still had it. I just usually will just hold my phone up to the speaker, and iPhone comes with it. My daughter just said iPhone comes with it
because it's built into your iOS system. Yeah, and that was one of the things. Like, it is actually built into your iOS system now. Shazam is.
That's crazy.
That's neat.
Yeah.
So if you still dial those numbers, does that still work?
I know. I did the same thing. I was like, I wonder if that actually still works. I did not do it there, so I don't know. Jeff, you want to try it?
I'm gonna try it sometime.
You have the number? Let's try it now.
2580, straight down the middle.
It was the only 4 numbers, because it had to be 4 numbers. It was only 4 numbers straight down the middle of the phone. And you have to remember, like, the company actually started in the UK because he went to business school in London.
Okay.
And so, no.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed.
I call it or text it?
I know, right? That's what I said. I said, I almost wonder if like you texted it now, then it would send you a link to download the thing. But obviously not. I think we've advanced a lot more, like to where we used to be, if you will. But he was great. And really, like, his foundation, his four things were about build from basic truths, apply creative persistence, eliminate friction, and connect to emotions. And there's a whole myriad of other things we could go into about that, but he was the keynote, and fantastic. So a great way to kick off the day. And then we started talking about, there was a couple other panels that then led the day. I will say this was different that PPAI did from any networking event or thing that I've done. And I don't know if they did this last year, Meg.
Okay.
Networking breaks.
Mm-hmm.
The networking breaks were like 30 minutes, and they had snacks and things. And so people would go to their room or go to the restroom or do some, answer emails or things that they needed to do. And they had like a snack, but then everyone stayed out, like kind of where the snacks were. And it really was like just about networking and talking to other people, because I feel like what happens a lot of times at those events is that you see some people here and there, but you don't actually have a chance to talk to everybody, or you get stuck at the same table. And so that was nice. I don't know if they did that last year, but I actually thought that was nice.
I think so. There was a lot of networking. I really enjoyed last year. I took so much away from it, and I was actually really looking forward to going again this year. So I totally had FOMO. Was there any surprises? Was there anybody there that you were like, oh, I didn't expect you? Or was there any speakers or anything that was like a surprise, or anything that was like you weren't expecting it?
No, no, I wouldn't say there was any surprises. And really, like, everyone that was there was so nice. And so kind of was like Denise Turcherich from Fairwear in Canada. She said one of the things, and she said it a couple of times, and I thought it was really like merch is having a moment right now. Mm-hmm. Like, it really is, just in general, when you think about, but here's the other thing. It's like quality merch is having a moment as well. And that's like, I kind of got into some of those side conversations with other people. I actually talked to some multi-line reps that were saying that they used to have consistency from a sales perspective across all of their lines. And now they'll have months that like these couple of lines do really good. And then the next couple of months, then it shifts to other brands. And so it's like people are really like trying to find the right merch for the right person. But also he's noticing their name brand, their retail brands are selling more than anything else right now.
Yeah, I'm seeing that as well. Just in general, like people asking for it, and just over here, like people are like, "Oh, do you have the brand name of this and that?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll get it."
Yeah.
But yeah.
I
Well,
think
that
it's quality. I don't know why. I don't know. You know, when you think about it, I don't
the two.
know why. What do you guys think? Why do you think that's happening?
I think you correlate the two. You correlate the brand, the retail name to quality and legacy and just being the standard, right? That's where the bar is. And then promo has always been the cheaper version of that. Like if you think about it, like I remember when on the promotional product group, someone was asking about earbuds and like having to pay tariffs and all these things, which I'm sure we're gonna get into next. And I'm like, he was like, I paid like $1.38. And I'm like, you get what you pay for. Like AirPods are obviously over $100 for a reason. I mean, I know it doesn't cost that much to make them, but when you're paying $2 for AirPods, like you're gonna get what you pay for. You won't ever find those in retail unless you're at the $5 store, right? And then at the $5 store, you know what you're getting. You're not getting AirPods. So I feel like we've kind of had that stigma for a while, but I think we've been seeing it. Like Denise said, we're having a moment. So during COVID, you had all those labor issues and the supply and demand issues, and we're going to see that again. I mean, right now we have everything on the water, and I want to know if they were talking about this at NALC, right? Like with everything stuck on the water right now, we're going to see an influx of inventory coming in. But what's that going to do now to the container prices, right? Because everything's sitting on the water. Everyone's going to be trying to get things in the next 90 days. So did they talk about tariffs at all? Or they talk about what's going on in the world? Like,
so there was someone, go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, before we launch into that or segue into that,
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of put in my thoughts as well on why that is. And I think, you know, this is pure skepticism. I guess that's the right thing to say. So I don't know if this is accurate or not, but my inclination would be that it is based on, obviously, you know, a younger generation coming into the buying space, having or being a lot more resource conscious, if you will, and not necessarily depending on the relationships that they have with distributors because they don't, or that relationship is minute. And so they're using places like 4imprint and, you know, other online, you know, they're Googling everything. And so when you Google stuff, you're not drawing down on the knowledge of the distributors and the suppliers in the industry. And so you're probably getting bamboozled quite often. And I think you're only going to get burnt so many times before you start to lean towards something that you realize is going to provide that quality, which is brand. And that's why I think, you know, distributors right now need to do need to be very, I guess, proactive at, you know, kind of putting that knowledge out there to the end user base, because you can get really good quality stuff that isn't necessarily brand related. And I think our industry, the basis of our industry is to brand the client, not co-brand. So again, you know, that's just my 2 cents, because you can find really good quality stuff. You know, I don't think it's always necessarily you get what you pay for. If you are resource conscious and you are very diligent with your supplier sourcing, then, you know, you can find, you know, hidden treasure.
So aside from Headwear USA, what other suppliers would fall into that? Because I really feel like the under $5 tchotchke like just needs to go away, because it's usually junk, right? It's just junk. Sorry, I said it. I really think we need to elevate the industry, have better quality, better lasting. You know, when it comes to sustainability, it's about how long. It really starts with how long you're going to keep that product, right? And if it's a better quality product, whether it's a retail brand or a generic brand, as long as you do your research and you're getting a good quality product, I feel like the end user will hold on to that. If it's quality, what was the 4 things that the ASI, we were talking about the thing a couple weeks ago. It was like quality is the first one.
Quality, usefulness, I think, was one.
Yeah. Longevity.
Yeah, some other things. But yeah, sorry. But yeah, so I agree with you, Jeff, to a point, obviously, but I think there are some suppliers in our industry that have done a really, really good job. But then there's also a lot of suppliers in this industry that have really said, you know what, I'm going to be the cheapest. I don't care at what stake. I'm going to be the cheapest. And that unfortunately has tarnished the industry.
Well, Meg, I think for you being, especially apparel related or apparel focused for, the past however long, I think that, I understand where you're coming from, but there's a lot of product in our industry that isn't necessarily, a 10, 15, 20 or $50 item. Big Click Stick, for instance, is a retail product and it's a good quality pen. It's 20 cents or whatever it is nowadays. That shouldn't be a $5 pen.
No, you're right, but it is also a brand name too. You know what I mean? People go for it because they know it's a good quality. They know the name stands behind it. So yes, I agree. When I say the under $5 line, I'm talking. And I was in hard goods just as long as I was in apparel. That was first. So
I mean, a bill of shirt is less than $5 in a lot of cases. So come on.
it is. But how many times have you heard me? Maybe you haven't, but if you have ever heard me do my pitch, I'm like, why are you selling Gildans? And not necessarily just Gildan in general, but why are you selling that cheap T-shirt? It's gonna be worn once at the event and then it's gone. Unless you have some type of really powerful messaging or a design that people are like, boom, they're not gonna rewear it. I'm telling you, I have these shirts that I cut the sleeves off of, and I'm like, they're still too heavy to wear. And it was a Gildan 2000. I'm like, stop throwing a bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks, man. Buy something that your customers are going to wear over and over again. And when it comes to apparel, sorry, you backed me into that apparel corner. Now I'm going to go off.
You wound her up.
But yeah, I've been on both. Like, all right, I'm just going to get off my soapbox on this. But yeah, I am for buying the better quality product because I think it'll be either worn or used more. And I have a graveyard of promotional products in my basement. I could literally speak to any single niche. All right, let's move on.
No, you're fine. Well, and we're almost done. So the only thing, and maybe we leave this as like a teaser for what's going to come and we can talk more about this later. But there was a woman from the Federal Reserve of Chicago who came to speak. And I will say her presentation was very boxed for what, from the data perspective. And I took pictures of all the slides, right? And have all of that. But here at the end of the day, I think everyone is looking for the magic of what's going to come. You talked about what's going to happen with the price of containers now, and you get this influx of items coming in and everything else. Because it was like a sigh of relief for everybody, that at least for 90 days, there's a relief from the percentage of the tariff, but the tariff probably isn't going to go away. And so I think that's one of the things that she said. It's not going to go away. The other thing is that, they look at, from the Federal Reserve perspective, they're looking at unemployment. They're also looking at, what spending looks like, the GDP from the economy standpoint. And so there are a lot of things, because people are itching to figure out, are interest rates going to drop? What does this look like from everybody? They don't have this crystal ball per se. They're trying to see, and some things are kind of leveling off, which is good, but they're also expecting. Now, the data that she shared primarily was all before Independence Day, or what's the day called for?
Memorial Day?
No. What did they call the day of whenever the tariffs came into play? There was a day.
Of reckoning?
No.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it now.
I want to say it was
Independence Day,
but it's not. But that was the day the tariffs went into play. It was, begins with an I. I know I'm not crazy. Everyone's like, Google. Anyways, she said
Liberation
Day.
Liberation Day. Thank you.
You're close.
Okay.
It's an L, but an L looks like an I.
L looks like an I. That's pretty close. Thank you. But so a lot of the data she shared was before Liberation Day. So they're really looking to see what this quarter is going to look like, because it was a lot of Q1 from a data perspective. But I mean, she did say, for everybody else, they're doing the same thing that we are. It is day to day right now. They are really, and so there wasn't this epiphany moment from her being on stage, and nobody talked about, what exactly your question was. Is that there an influx, or container costs going to change? I don't know, because the other thing that's happening overseas is that some factories are just shutting down. And that's the reality of it, is because they don't know how it's affecting their business. So it's affecting everybody from a global standpoint, really, of the shift. It's not just the increase in
It's
prices.
amazing how fast that all took place too, because it's really only been a month.
Yeah.
I mean, if people are closing their factories after one bad month, that should tell you something. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree. I know that a lot of that kind of stuff is happening, and as we've been trying to say, cooler heads will prevail. Don't panic, as Peter said last week.
Yeah.
Then next thing you know, China and the U.S. are meeting in Switzerland, and we've got a temporary trade deal, which has been honestly remarkable. The fact that it's reduced 115%, so we're now down to 62.5%. From the 170 whatever it was. So that's good news in my opinion. And yes, it's still day by day, but that's for 90 days, and we'll see what happens if China holds up their end of the bargain. With whatever the details of that trade deal are. Then either those tariffs will continue to come down, or they'll be renegotiated. But I mean, it's now no longer an embargo. Essentially, 175% or whatever it was kind of an embargo without being an embargo. Nobody's importing, or they're going to at least try to look elsewhere at that point. 62.5%, you can kind of work with. You know what I mean? At least from our standpoint at Headwear, I know that maybe some other folks won't be able to, or whatever, but it's good news.
It is good news, and I know this isn't promo related, but I wonder if it'll affect buying. And I saw that the executive order was signed on Monday of this week to reduce prescription costs, right? 30 to 80%. Like, that's insane. Like, that is actually insane, and on a good way. I am all for it, considering I don't have health insurance right now. so any discount, you can get on that kind of stuff. And I know I've talked to you guys about this before, how like insurance.
You know what I would like to see in regards to like drugs and stuff like that? Like, why do we have to go to a doctor to get antibiotics?
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Trust me.
There are other countries you don't have to do that.
No.
Like antibiotics should just be an over-the-counter kind of situation, in my opinion, because you're locked behind a paywall, even if you don't have health insurance, like you said, Meg. Because we don't either. And so if my kids are sick and they've got an ear infection, I have to take them to the freaking doctor and spend $200 and some on a doctor's visit just to get a prescription. And then I got to go buy.
Really, for the doctor to look in and be like, "Yep, it's an ear infection." And you're like, "No shit."
Yeah, I've been through freaking 30. I know what this is.
Yeah.
Well, I think just seeing it, because I was pre-med from before this world, and I know what if there's a lot of parents out there who will think, okay, I'm going to give my child who has a virus antibiotics because it makes it better. And then what happens is your body builds up an immunity. And then I've seen what that does, actually.
I do understand that. You can't treat everything with an antibiotic, obviously.
Yeah. That's why, but I get it. Trust me, I get it. Especially as a woman, like if you go, I mean, I know we're getting completely off topic, but like if I have like, God forbid, a UTI or something, like I have to go now to the doctors every single time and be like, hey, like it's just ridiculous. So I get it, and I'm really glad that they're doing this. And hopefully this is just one of the little things that we're like checking off the box, and like we're making things better here, guys. Like I think this is. I'm so happy for my parents. Like their prescription costs like are out of this world. Is that my favorite Harper? Hi, beautiful.
Like, oh shoot.
She ran.
Aww. So yeah. Anyway, I just thought it was really cool. I'd like to see like if anything else comes from that, and once that executive order is done, if it actually comes to fruition, because I think that's going to be huge. I think prescription costs are just out of this world right now, and I think big pharma needs to see its day.
I mean, it's kind of insane that we've been footing the bill for all the R&D.
All of it.
The fact that you can get the same exact drug in another country for a tenth of the price, because those countries have basically told the prescription drug companies, hey, this is what we're going to pay. If you don't want to sell it at this price, you just won't be able to sell it here. So they agreed to it, and then they foot the bill on us. It's like ridiculous. So I'm super glad to hear that. Yeah, I really hope that passes and goes through. I think that's definitely a good key step in the right direction.
Absolutely. Anything else, guys? Anything else fun? going on in your lives?
No.
No. Mother's Day was good for you guys. Great. I mean, you went to Chicago.
Yeah. How was Mother's Day for you?
My daughter came home from California. I came home from Maine, so I had the whole family here, and my little grandbaby, and I got all the snuggles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First Mother's Day as a Mimi.
Yeah. I had a mug too, but it's gone. I already used it this morning. It says Mimi on it, so it's
I
real.
love it. So fun.
The promo product says it is true, so it must be. Anyway, all right.
All right. Very cool. Well, I don't know. I guess we've got one more episode until Memorial Day. So I was going to say happy Memorial Day to you guys, but nope, that'll be next week.
All right. And I guess we'll go over the top 100 next week then too, right? Since when they're not announced. So we'll go over them and.
Yep.
All right.
No, that's right. We didn't do any teasers for the 100, did we?
Oh, so give us a quick tease, Sarah. Can you give us a quick tease?
One quick tease to whet people's appetite.
I can tease you, Jeff, because you don't even know of where Headwear USA landed. But there were some, I will say, smaller suppliers that had a big shift in where they fell, like Headwear USA from last year. You guys came in at number 100, so you had an increase last year. So you had a huge increase from a number percentage. So yeah.
No, you should just buy. You should just buy. Don't buy Headwear.
Just buy Headwear.
Well, I
just
can't wait to hear
Mike.
Who made the list. What's that, Jeff? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just said just kidding.
Oh,
relax.
Okay.
I can. You're getting red.
I didn't even hear what you said. I think I'm just naturally red. I didn't even hear what you said. I was talking over you.
All right. Well, that's normal. All right, guys. Well, I'm looking forward to the PPAI 100 and our next episode. So this one was fun. Obviously, it ran long because it was a good topic, and we kept the banter going. So, but anyhow, yeah. Until next time, guys. We'll see ya.